Hello, Cubs fans, and welcome to a brand new edition of Cubs on Tap. As you can hear in my voice, I'm a little excited tonight. I know Juice is a little happy because the Cubs won a fucking baseball game, folks. I got the guns out. It's suns out, guns out when the Cubs win 14-5. I was also outside, so it was a little bit hot. And I got the W flag on today. As I mentioned, I'm here with my boy Juice. I am Ron Luce. You all know me. You're probably sick of my voice at this point. But Juice, the Cubs won a game. The Cubs won the game by a lot of runs, too, which is always cool and tough. How are you feeling tonight after the 14-5 win, my friend?
Dude, real good. Yeah, last night we did last night's show, and my key to the game was don't embarrass yourself. Well, they clearly didn't embarrass themselves tonight. Brought the bats out pretty early in the second inning there with the 7-run second. Some of the guys that are hopefully maybe going to be part of this core or trade pieces, who knows, end up having nice nights. Feather than the cap, nod Keegan Thompson, shoved for 6 innings. Was working that fastball in and out, had the slider going today. The Cubs needed that performance, right? They absolutely did. They've had a lot of negative energy around the ball club in the last couple weeks. And like I said, and we've talked about on the show, like sometimes these like easy, boring, fun, laugh it up while, Dave Robertson's taking a bat in the bottom of the top of the ninth. Like those are the fun moments, right? That's when like we sit there and we're like, all right, like this team can get the monkey off its back, take a breath, laugh in the dugout, enjoy each other's company, because it absolutely hasn't been easy over this stretch of baseball games to be around this group. I'm sure it's been, a very trying time. You got an array of guys who are kind of at the point of their career where they're going different directions, a lot up in the air for the future. And some young guys who are like, is this how the major league level is? Like, do we just get our ass kicked every night? No, it's not. And tonight's one of those nights where you finally take the deep breath, celebrate a win. And they get to turn the page for tomorrow and try to, get a split. I think that just tonight's performance was a nice refresher as a Cub fan. Easy, boring win and some laughs along the way. Much better plate of dinner than we've been served from this team over the course of the last 2 weeks. And that's why both of us tonight have somewhat of a smile.
Yes, absolutely. And this is non-alcoholic for those listening at home. It's a classic.
Cheers, I got the water tonight.
Yeah, we're going a little Arnie Palmer myself. I need a little something sweet here to supplement my water, but we'll hashtag crack into that nonetheless. Because again, the Cubs won a baseball game, just like you said, just with all the negative energy that's been around the team, the losing. Like I talked about it with Joey on Monday night's show, where it was like, the 2 wins over the weekend against the Braves didn't even feel like anything because of how they responded the 2 games following that, the last game against the Braves and then the first game against these Pirates. Now it's just like they needed this one, right? You need to get that performance. I love seeing Rafael Ortega have 3 hits from the leadoff spot. You know what? And I don't hate Christopher Morel getting a night off because the kids played really well and everybody deserves a night off. And he got one tonight. Now, if he's not in the lineup tomorrow, I'm going to be a little concerned. But, get him back out there again tomorrow. He gets the night off tonight. He's probably laughing and keeping that dugout in high spirits because that's just the kind of guy he is. But 3 hits from Ortega tonight, 2 hits from Patrick Wisdom, as well as, the 4 ribbies, the home run, things you love to see. Ian Happ with a hit and 2 RBIs as well. He had the homer. I mean, you got Velasquez getting in the game. No official at-bats for the kid because he walked twice. Like 2 hits from VR. I mean, it's that kind of night when Jonathan VR is getting 2 hits. And then Alfonso Rivas with 2 hits. And one of them was the grand slam off a position player. And like you and I talked about off air, if you're putting a position player in, good, you deserve to be teed off on. I don't care what TLR thinks on the South Side about that bullshit. Unwritten rules, my ass. They're unwritten because they're not a fucking rule. Get that shit out of here. But nonetheless, super excited. The Cubs get a big one. Daniel Norris gives up a couple to make
he sucks.
Somewhat stupid in the late game. Like I saw your tweet, Juice, and I don't think there was a tweet I have seen in the last 3 days that I agreed with more of like, why is Daniel Norris still a thing? Like they've tried, he's had moments, but like it's just not cutting it.
I can't even remember a moment at this point. And honestly, too, like the Cubs have like 5 lefties at AAA that are probably better suited for the future than this guy is. And I think that you ever have that moment where you listen to a broadcast and you're like, you could hear it in their voice what they really want to say, but they can't say it, because that was Boog and Ryan Dempster at the end of this game. Like they were totally like, well, it's been a while since he's worked and it's sweaty out there. And no, dude, this guy just can't find the plate and he sucks. Like that's what they wanted to kind of say, but you can't, because they're a part of the ball team and they see these guys every day. And but why
we're saying what they're thinking, right?
Yeah. And that's why I start to think, I'm like, then it got me on the, why is he still here? You start to kind of think there's got to be a logical explanation. And I think it's kind of like the same conversation we've had with Jason Hayward in some ways. It's like, why? What is the reasoning? And with Norris, it's like even worse. Like Hayward at least has the contract that's upwards of $26 million. With Norris, it's like cut and go. Like, what is the point? Right. So I'm. Does he have pictures of David Ross and Jed Hoyer and the front office? Like, what is the? Because this guy came into the game with a 13-run lead and gave up 4. The position player in the inning before gave up 4. The position player.
Yeah, the guy that isn't a traditional.
The guy who isn't a pitcher. So what are we doing? Like, it's just at that point, like, it's embarrassing for him. It's embarrassing for the ball club. Like, the Cubs, even in a great night tonight, found a way to embarrass themselves in the 9th by just rolling this guy out here for the Wolves, which I get. He's got a pitch. But the question becomes, why is he even on the roster? 3 outs without giving up, 4 runs. Why is he here? What is the point? And I think I get more and more pissed off because I'm like, I want to do these shows with you. We're sitting waiting for this stupid game to end. And he's just walking the bases loaded. I'm like, what is the deal here? And I think that's a lot of the reason why I'm a little bit more upset. But I'm also like, why? What's the point? I'm sitting here trying to make sense of it. I don't know if you can. I don't know if anybody's listening can. Drop it in the comments, please. If you have any idea of why Norris is still a Cub, please tell me, and I'll open ears, and I will tip my cap and go, oh, yeah, that makes sense. If anybody can give a rational point, that's even close to, like, people calling the earth flat. To like, there's
literally
just
anything.
There's just nothing that has come across my mind that makes it seem like this. Yeah, this is a right move. This is what they should be doing. But yeah, that all things considered, Keegan Thompson, man, the pitching comes back, and Keegan Thompson has showed that he is a pillar of whatever he's going to end up being. If he's a starter, if he's a bullpen guy, whatever. But you got a kid there. You can check something off the list with confidence that something's there. He's going to be there for a while, and I'm happy to sit here and to watch his success, and hopefully Steele picks it up tomorrow and has the same kind of success.
Absolutely, man. And just to kind of fill in a few points that you had here, overall, really a good night from the Cubs pitching. We'll start with Daniel Norris. However, interesting enough, none of those runs were actually earned. He actually gave up no earned runs. Still 4 runs, only 1 hit and 1 walk too, which is hysterical. 2 strikeouts for him. So it is a funky looking stat line when you really look at it on paper. But no, I mean, absolutely all the way around. Givens with a pretty much a clean inning of work. He did give up the 1 walk, but that was all with a strikeout. David Robertson continues to keep that pristine 1.75 ERA. He had the clean inning of work with a strikeout. We mentioned the at-bat. I mean, again, the fun of tonight's game when your relief pitcher can get his first career major league at-bat because you're winning by 13 runs. Yeah, that's things you can get excited about as a Cubs fan. But yeah, man, dude, Keegan Thompson, just again, you and I talked about it last night, right? We wanted to be appointment television from here on out for a guy like Keegan Thompson. And right now you have that 6 innings of work, 4 hits, just the 1 earned run on the solo shot, only 1 walk and 7 strikeouts for Keegan Thompson tonight. Just electric stuff out of the kid. And I'll tell you what, Juice, here's the thing about Keegan Thompson, I think to me that is so refreshing, I guess, for lack of a better word. And it's that Keegan Thompson was a guy who we saw obviously at the tail end of last year, right? Once everything got blown up, pieces were traded away. The starting rotation looked vastly different than it did on opening day. And Keegan struggled a little bit last year, right? A lot of walks once he became a starter. And he had a lot of walks as a reliever too, but he kind of worked his way around it more often than not. But if there's one guy from this past season in 2021 to 2022 that took leaps and bounds in terms of improvement, it is Keegan Thompson.
Yeah.
Like by far and beyond. I mean, hell, at one point in the season, Cubs fans are pretty much sitting here just saying Keegan Thompson is arguably the only all-star for this team. And that argument might still be true because he has just pitched that well. Again, even on nights that he's struggled, really outside of that Orioles start, even the games he's struggled, he hasn't struggled that terribly. Sure, he's given up some runs, but overall, he's usually bounced back, and he did it tonight, right? Like, just another pristine start for him. Had a great start against the Braves, who are not a slouch of a team by any stretch of imagination. There's a reason that they're in the playoff conversation, not only just in the NL as a general, but in the NL East division conversation, right? And the Mets are one of the best teams in baseball this year, and yet the Braves are managing to find a way to catch them because of that crazy 14-game winning streak that they had prior to the Cubs destroying that. Keegan Thompson, though, has... if there's one thing that I, as a Cubs fan, am hanging my hat on for this season, it's seeing the growth in Keegan Thompson from the end of last season as a starter to now, right? Justin Steele, we're still seeing a lot of the same. I think he's starting to find his groove more. I think Steele is also learning that he doesn't need to be a strikeout pitcher every time out. His last 3 starts, his strikeout number's been a little more down, but he's gone deeper into games. He's given up less runs. He has the strikeout stuff, but he's also learning that he's really effective when he pitches deeper into games. Where Keegan Thompson, it's not necessarily a pitching difference for him in a style. He's just legitimately turned it around and been a better pitcher this season. And I think that is huge. And it's a tip of the cap to the development at the major league level, something you and I were concerned about on last night's show. I think it's a tip of the cap to that. I think it's a tip of the cap to Keegan Thompson as a player to make those necessary adjustments and come back and be better this season. And it's just a tip of the cap to the pitch lab, and that it does work. These guys can go into the pitch lab and maybe they show good stuff coming up, but they can turn that good stuff into great stuff. And we're starting to see a lot of that out of Keegan Thompson. So I'm right there with you. I think, the runs are all great and dandy. Don't get it twisted. Love seeing Rivas get numbers up on the board tonight. Love seeing Happ get on the board. Love seeing Velasquez get some plate appearances. Love seeing Wisdom continue to do his thing. I would argue that Wisdom could be a trade piece at the deadline this year. I think there's some teams out there.
He absolutely should.
There's teams that would like a power bat like Patrick Wisdom in their lineup. But I'm telling you right now, man, like you said, right? We as Cubs fans have an appetite for something to cling on to for the future. Tonight's start for Keegan Thompson, that's the appetizer that fills me up. And it gets me ready for the main course, right? Like that's what I think needed as Cubs fans tonight. And that to me is the biggest takeaway of tonight's game. Again, love all the runs. 14 runs is cool and tough. David Robertson getting at bats, fucking hysterical. Keegan Thompson coming out and shoving for 6 innings. That's the shit I want to see as a Cubs fan for the rest of the season.
Yeah, that's the headline, right? And you talked about pitch lab. I think that they should take Daniel Norris and just throw him in there and throw away the key. Just keep him in there.
Just stay in here until you strike out every magical batter that you face.
Yeah, and then after the season's over, he can go on and do other things with his life. But yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I think I love the point you brought up with Steele, because I think that in a lot of ways last year, what you talked about with Keegan, getting himself into trouble, giving up hits, I think he kind of learned last year that you don't have to strike everybody out. You can go up there, get some weak contact, get deeper into games. I always think and I know it's such a weak comparison, but friend of the show, Justin Steele, I wish he would just take a page out of John Lester's book. Like John Lester was never the guy that, for the longest time, that blew you away with stuff, right? Like he kept you off balance. He, thought through his at bats against it. He was a very smart pitcher who was able to locate and get around, but he wasn't like necessarily like the guy that would strike out 15, 14. He was I'm going to strike out 7 or 8. I'm going to give up, maybe a run or 2, but I'm going to get through 7 innings and I'm going to keep my ball club in it and give him a chance to win this game. And I just wish that, I think Keegan's learned it. And now I think that it's time for Justin Steele to pick up that baton and just understand that this is the major leagues. Like not every start is going to be 7 innings shutout baseball. It's just not what it is. Every start is different. And what gives your ball club a chance to win is quality starts. Going 6 innings, giving up less than 4, and limiting your walks. Being able to make the other team beat you. And I think that Keegan, in a lot of ways, has kept the ball over the plate. He hasn't really got himself into a lot of trouble. And when Steele goes bad, that seems to happen, right? Like the moments in the game where it seems to flip is the one bad inning he has where the focus is, oh man, I gave up a leadoff single. I need to strike out the next 3 to keep him at first. No, man, like sometimes it's about throwing that fastball up and in and breaking a bat. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And getting it to third so that way, you could turn too. That's the idea. And I think that young pitchers, I think it's very understated. Young pitchers think that they have to come up to the major league level. And I think we saw a little bit of this with Caleb Killian. Yeah. The idea of my stuff is good enough to just blow by these guys, and I don't need to worry about, location or the idea of like when I get into trouble, I can just use my fastball and my overpowering stuff to just get out of it. Sometimes, man, it's about just making a pitch that they put into play. And Keegan has figured that out, and he knows that when he needs to get a strikeout, he has that stuff. And maybe you don't go to that, as often as you did when you started. Nobody strikes out 20 a game. There's only a couple of them in the history of the major leagues, right? So the idea is when you need it, you rear back and you grab it. And for battling through 6, you're going to have ground ball to second, ground ball to short, the weak flyouts. Now you can mix in a strikeout here or there, but that's pitching. And I think that when you're dealing with a young group of pitchers, which we kind of are right now, if you look at, the state of the rotation due to injury, it's a lot of young guys who are figuring out how to pitch at the major league level. Yeah, you're going to struggle. We've seen it. But it's about figuring out that, step 1 is, hey, this doesn't play here. What do I got to do? Who do I got to ask? And I think Kyle Hendricks is a good mentor for that. And I think, in a lot of ways, Marcus Stroman, not the biggest strikeout pitcher either, who's in that dugout, is like, hey, sometimes you just got to throw this and get a ground ball. And I think they're slowly learning it. And both those guys, as they learn it more and more, are going to be more successful. And I think that as we sit here today, it's encouraging to watch Keegan learn it and then have it translate into tons of success. And it really is getting us excited towards the future because, hey, we got a pillar. We got a guy who we can project to be a mainstay in the bullpen or the rotation. And that's tough to find. Pitching is impossible to find, and they have.
Amen to that. We got a guy. We got a guy. Yeah. And no, I love how you said that too. And going back to your thought about sitting in that dugout, right, with guys like Kyle Hendricks and Marcus Stroman, guys that aren't necessarily – they can strike guys out, don't get it twisted. But, they don't rely on the strikeout to, quote-unquote, dominate ball games. I can think of 2 starts, one from each of those players that you just named, where those guys went 7 innings of shutout ball but only struck out like 2 guys. Hendricks did it in the 21-0 blowout of the Pirates, and Stroman did it against the White Sox in his win.
Yep.
Or what should have been his win.
What should have been his win.
The Cubs fucking shattered away at the end.
But blew it.
Nonetheless, You had two starts from guys that only struck out two guys in 7 innings, but they played shutout ball because they relied on their stuff to induce that weak contact. And I love listening to Marcus Stroman talk about like how he pitches and why he pitches the way he pitches. Yeah, just because like, you know, he talks about how he sits with like the elite hitters and asks them like, what screws you up, right? And it's timing, it's movement of pitches. Like nothing that Stroman throws doesn't have movement on it. Like even his fastball moves. Like everything has movement on it. You know, it's designed to induce that weak contact, right? You want to get guys swinging at shit that they shouldn't be. And yeah, I agree. I think we're starting to see it with guys like Keegan. And I think the biggest thing too with Keegan and even with Justin Steele, because I pulled up some numbers to back this argument. I think what we're seeing too from them in sense of the growth this year is that after a bad outing or maybe 2 bad outings in a row, they don't let it affect them. They come back down to earth and they work on it and they get back out there and get back to what we have seen from them this year. And I want to just show a couple of examples with that. So, you know, Keegan Thompson had the great start against the White Sox, obviously at the end of May, where he just went out and shoved and looked sensational. Again, strikeout numbers, not crazy high, right? He, you know, only K'd 4 in that game, but got the win in St. Louis, only K'd 3. But then he got beat up a little bit against Baltimore, the 3 innings where he gave up the 7 earned, got beat up against the Yankees in that second outing, right? Those are 2 back-to-back outings where he could have just been like, shit, I don't know what happened. Things are going awry. No, comes back against Atlanta, doesn't get the decision, but still goes 6 innings, only gives up 2 hits, only walks 2, strikes out 9. And then he comes back today with the 4 hit, 1 run, 1 walk, 7K performance. And that just shows that resiliency. And even with Steele, right? Goes out there at the end of May, gets absolutely beat up in Cincinnati in that game where they just got shit kicked right before the Memorial Day weekend. Gives up 7, but then comes back against Milwaukee, pitches in very well, comes back against St. Louis the following game, only strikes out 1 guy, but goes 7 innings. Then against San Diego, only strikes out 3, but goes 7 innings. And then even against Atlanta, he gave up a couple runs, but he only has to strike out 3, gets through 5, gets the W. It just shows that these guys are learning how to pitch and not just throw at the major league level. They're learning, hey, some nights you're going to have your stuff and you can go out there and sling it and strike out 9. Or we saw Steele do that against the Diamondbacks in back-to-back starts and strike out, 19 in 2 starts? Like, yeah, you're going to have days like that. But sometimes you're also going to have days where you're just inducing weak contact, but you're still getting the results you need, like you said, Juice, to keep your team in the game, to keep your team within a chance to win. And at the end of the day, as a starting pitcher, that's really all you're asked to do. You do that, you're going to be in the big leagues for a long time. And hopefully these guys are both Cubs for a long time, because I'm super encouraged by what we've seen out of Thompson, including tonight's start. And I'm super excited to actually watch Justin Steele tomorrow and be able to see him hopefully build on his last couple of starts. His last 3 starts have been very solid. Not flashy, but effective, and it gets the job done. And that's all you can ask out of a guy. Hopefully he comes out and does that again tomorrow. And like you said, man, just can get that split against these Pirates. So, Juice, I'm going to turn it back over to you just really quickly here, buddy. Any final thoughts? Maybe something that we haven't touched on from tonight's game that you would like to mention before we look ahead to tomorrow?
DFA Norris. That's the only thing I got to say. Somebody else. Ready for somebody else.
I respect that wholly.
That's the only thing. And you know what? I shouldn't be as hard on him. He's the last man in the bullpen. He's the last man on the roster. But you know what? You're messing with, us being on time to do this show. You're messing with, people's money when it comes to, overs and unders, alternate spreads.
Yeah.
So figure it out, buddy, or, coach high school baseball somewhere.
That's too funny. I love it. You gotta figure it out. You know what I mean? Two things that I do want to mention about tonight's game. And it's a pair of outfielders that I just want to quickly note. I got stats up in front of me. So for those that are watching video feed, if it looks like I'm staring through Juice's soul, it's because I'm reading
Yeah,
stats.
you are. It's making my eyes water.
Sorry about that, buddy.
No, I'm just kidding, bud.
But Rafael Ortega and Ian Happ. I think Ortega in general has gone under the radar just because of how bad this team has been, but he's really turned it around lately. He's actually been playing really well. He's rose his average all the way to 270. His OPS is a 740, which is respectable. It's not blowing anybody away, but it's certainly respectable. But for him tonight, 5 at-bats, 2 runs, 3 hits, 2 RBIs, and a walk. That's sensational. Good for Rafi in the leadoff spot tonight, getting the look in center field, obviously relieving Christopher Morel and giving him a night off. But Ian Happ, man, and
Yeah.
I'm going to give a shout out. They're friends of the program. We love Joe. I wish we could get something going here with Joe as well, and we've tried to in the past. But over at Obvious Shirts, brought up a great point today. He listed the outfielder voting for the NL, and the WRC plus / OPS plus. They're essentially the same stat. Usually the guys have the same numbers for both. For all the outfielders in the top 20 in voting, if you went by OPS plus, which again, WRC plus OPS plus is becoming a very popular statistic to actually like understand a player's value to a team and where he stands in the league. There's only two outfielders in the NL that have a better OPS plus WRC plus than Ian Happ. 2. Ian Happ is better than the names like Ronald Acuna Jr. And just about every dude that's ahead of him in voting. He's currently 17th in All-Star voting for NL outfielders.
It's horrible.
He's the third best when it comes to OPS plus. So if we're going just by that stat alone, Ian Happ is a starting outfielder in the NL All-Star game.
By the way, I used my 5 votes to have Ian Happ in the.
I love that. I still have my 5 votes, and
I had Wilson Contreras at catcher, and then I filled in from there. No, I didn't go full Cubs homer. Went full baseball. Enjoyed it, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but it just I think Ian Happ is having such a great season, and just in the national eye is not getting enough love. Currently hitting 291. His OPS now has climbed to 870. I mean, really, if this pace keeps up, Willie went 0 for 5 tonight. If this pace keeps up, Ian Happ is going to pass Willie on the roster for OPS. Mm-hmm. Willie's at an 888 right now. Ian's catching him. Ian's having a good fucking season. And
I would honestly make the bet that that's going to happen strictly because, like, as the season goes, Willie's going to be more and more wore out.
Absolutely. And I'll tell you what, I love Wilson Contreras. This is going to be my little hot take that I kind of end the episode on maybe a little bit. I love Wilson Contreras, right? I love what he is to the team. He plays a very invaluable position in baseball and a catcher. I'm going to hate to see him leave when he gets inevitably probably traded.
Yeah,
he's the hottest catcher in baseball. He's going to bring back an absolute haul. It sucks because, again, love the guy. Wish nothing but the best for him. But he's probably not a Cub after this season.
Nope.
But because of injuries in the minors, because of his age, because of he's finally starting to find his groove as a Chicago Cub, I might be more upset if Ian Happ is traded at this year's deadline.
I could agree with that.
Because Ian Happ is putting it together. Yes, the slugging's not there, but that's what makes it even more impressive. This guy has an 870 OPS with, I don't want to call him pedestrian slugging numbers. Here, I'm pulling it up right now because I need this statistic in front of me. Otherwise, I'm going to sound like an asshole. But, I mean, his slugging's a 480, which historically in his career – outside of 2018 and last season, because just the whole season in general, his numbers were skewed because of he got hot late. But historically in his career, when he's having a solid season, he hits over 500 slugging. 480 is still very respectable. He has a 390 on base percentage. Yeah. Why do we like Ian Happ? Because he gets on base.
And he's hitting from the right side now too.
Yes. He's putting it together. And that's terrifying for a guy who's only 27 years old.
Yeah.
His best baseball's in front of him. I would argue if there's one player, a position player on this team that I would buy a jersey for right now and spend my hard-earned money on, it's probably Ian Happ because he's the one that aligns with the core of the next generation. He can be that veteran. And guess what? He's a guy that doesn't rely on power. We're seeing the contact come up. His eye for the plate has gotten astronomically better in a few seasons. Ian Happ is starting to become what this team thought he was when he was a first-round pick out of Cincinnati.
Yeah, and I think to like build on your point, if you're talking about low salary numbers, that's going to outplay his contract over the course of given 4 or 5 year deal, that probably is the line for Ian Happ. Yeah, I think that's a situation where you look at it and you go, yeah, I think that you're probably better off extending him than trading him, because that not only are you probably not going to find another option cheaper that's going to put up that type of number, and this is all hypothetical that he keeps this going, but
Sure.
I think that there's a lot of signs that we've seen that it's probably going to continue to go this way, considering that he had a good second half of last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that the reward for what kind of prospect that you'd probably get back that is going to push the can down the line with so much pushback that you've had from the fan base and the media already about this whole rebuild thing. I think if you trade Ian Happ, it almost just announces that, like, I'm not competing until 2025, 2026.
Yeah.
And that's at earliest.
Yeah.
So Ian Happ is almost, like you said, like this base kind of like fluff, like come here, play with Ian Happ piece. Like there's a lot of that.
What I
make
argue?
that argument.
I know people are going to want to crucify me at the cross for this one. He is not this type of player and meaning to Chicago. I'm not calling him Mr. Cup, but this is from the last core, right? When these guys were all coming up, Anthony Rizzo was the first one up.
I could see that bridge. Him being
He's that bridge player that is already here, that can be here when the core arrives, whatever that next core is.
And to teach the lessons of how they were able to be successful on that
and how to be
2016 team, in 2017. 2016 really wasn't here, but
he wasn't here in 16. He was here through a lot of the shit.
Right. So yeah, I think too, the problem with that statement is that they have so much talent in the outfield, in the system, that they may look at it as, if I can add pitching that's closer to the major league level for Ian Happ, or I don't think anybody's thought of this either, pairing Wilson Contreras and Ian Happ in a trade to bring back even more. Maybe there's a team out there that needs both, needs a corner outfielder. And Ian Happ plays a lot of different positions. So that's the other thing too. So, and there's the DH. So maybe you're pairing them together to bring back maybe a topper prospect that is probably more slated to come up with, like Brendan Davis. Maybe that's you're seeing him on the roster immediately, like your Madrigal. Maybe he was at the level, maybe a team has kind of given up on his potential, or maybe he's blocked by somebody who's already in the system, who's they've already extended, and he's just an adage to the group. Yeah, I think that would be the only scenario that I would be okay with it, is if they brought back like a major league ready arm that is going to go into this rotation with Steele, with Keegan Thompson, and then you're going to roll the dice with, maybe Marcus Stroman as your guy next year. Maybe, Kyle Hendricks is your 5. Maybe you're going out to get pitching and you're going to try to figure something out with Kyle Hendricks. There's a lot of different movement you can do, but that would be probably the only scenario I'd be like, yeah, maybe I pulled the trigger on trading Ian Happ. But you're absolutely right. If the idea is to contend and you feel like you have the pieces in your farm already that you don't want to add as much with, and you think that selling off Willie maybe is the final piece that you're adding to the farm system, in addition to obviously your draft picks and whatever you can get for trading guys like, like Robertson and all that. But yeah, I think you bring up a good point. That I also think too that it would show a lot of faith in the front office with the players, with the fans. Ian Happ in a lot of ways has become a fan favorite because he goes on 670. He does all these interviews. He does a lot for the compound, his podcast. Yeah, the Connect Coffee Roasters. Yeah. All of that obvious stuff. Shirts. Like I think that in a lot of ways he's carved out, like, quietly too. Like, he's not the big personality like Anthony, where like he walks in a room and he's like, hey, how's it
room.
going?
Yeah.
Everybody, the
Yeah.
pasta, pour out the wine. No, he's very quiet. Ian
Yeah.
Happ.
Right.
He's like, hey, I'm here. Like,
Yeah.
and now he has a personality. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely. You could hear it in the compound. You could hear it when he's doing the 670 runs I think on Tuesdays. But yeah, with that said, I think that, yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of positives and more than negatives to keeping him around and to giving him that extension. And I think it would announce to a lot of these guys like, hey, we're open for business for extensions too.
Right.
that's the one thing the Cubs really haven't done in a while. Can't remember the last time they extended anybody. What is it, Kyle Hendricks? And that was
Kyle. Yeah, Kyle was the last one.
2 years ago. Yeah, that's a long time ago. And that's, I understand the ball club isn't as good as, and there's a lot of this talent that you don't want to be extending. But yeah, if you have one guy like that or two guys, that fit your timeline, yeah, you should absolutely be doing it. So yeah, great point. I think vote for Ian, and I'm all in to keeping him here.
Yeah, and just two quick additional points here before we look ahead to tomorrow's game, Juice. In his last 30 games, he's slashing 315, 395, 583. In his last 15, he's slashing 352, 435, 574. In his last 7, he is slashing 364, 462, 636. Ian Happ is also just getting better as the weather gets warmer. And that's encouraging. He's just getting better and better as the season moves on, which is awesome to see. And Juice, you know what else he's showing? That guys can get to the major leagues and continue their development. Another box checked with one of our massive concerns. And I think that's another reason why them investing in Ian Happ shows a lot of faith in the front office. It shows a lot of faith in their process. It shows a lot of faith to the fans of direction of something that about 24 hours ago, you and I sat here and were legitimately concerned about. I think it doesn't solve all those issues, but I think it's certainly a step in the right direction to giving the fan base some level of, here's where we're going, here's where we are, this is what our intentions are, this is where
comfortability.
We have faith, exactly. I absolutely agree with you, my man. So that's my hot take. Ian Happ needs to be in the All-Star game. Ian Happ should be extended. I'm for it now. I might have to go buy a jersey just to speak it into existence. I don't know which one I want to get though. Maybe a road gray. I only have one road gray jersey, so maybe that has to be the.
That's a good point. I don't think I have any road gray. I think I've always stuck to the pinstripes and the blues.
Yeah, the pinstripes and the blues. Or I like to do the throwbacks and I just get them custom made.
Yeah, sometimes.
Those are fun.
I've been looking at a City Connect jersey for a while here too. Don't mind them. The Wrigleyville ones are kind of nice.
Maybe that's where we get a Happ. In a Wrigleyville, that'd be sick. Because honestly, my only road gray is a Jake Arrieta road gray.
Oh, that's a good one though.
Yeah, but it's the Nike logo, Jake Arrieta. So it's
so that bugs you, doesn't it? You look in the mirror and you're like, I want to pull that
a little
off.
bit. I will say though, I was at his first start of the 2021 season when he actually shoved and looked really good. So like, I can take that memory because that was the first time I'd ever seen him in person pitch. Because I always missed him. In the 15, 16, 17 seasons. I always missed them. I always got like Jason Hamill and John Lackey and Kyle Hendricks. Like those were the three that I saw all the time. It took me until like 2019 to finally see John Lester pitch in person. So like
interesting.
It was weird. It was weird.
I was at Johnny Lester's first hit.
That's sick.
The one he hit the pitcher on the Cardinals. Yeah, that was awesome.
Amazing. That's
the whole ballpark erupted. It was crazy awesome.
Sure. that is crazy awesome. That is a memory that you can just hold on to. And Juice, speaking of memories, I think we're going to hold on to this win for a little while because there was a lot of good. We needed this one.
Hold on to all of them as we can too. Yes. The way this season's gone.
Yes, we can. 14-5 is the victory tonight. But dude, they played baseball in like 12 hours.
12 minutes. Right, like 12 minutes.
It's around the corner. Like this thing's getting posted, and this episode's gonna have a very short, shelf
listen
life
time.
Because, the Cubs and Pirates are back at it again on Thursday, June 23rd at PNC Park in beautiful Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. I'll call it beautiful. It's a pretty city. That ballpark is gorgeous. I've never been, but
best ballpark in the MLB. I've been there.
I need to get out there.
It's a damn shame that franchise plays in it. But
Facts.
It's a damn good ballpark. I'll say that.
It's pretty. It's scenic for
sure. And the parking is fantastic. You park across the bridge and then you walk the bridge. So there's no worry about getting out of that place. It's so
Yeah.
easy because everybody parks in a million different places around the city.
That's smart. That's beautiful. I
See,
love that.
it's
That's
not Wrigley
amazing.
where it's like you got one way out, figure it out.
That's why I just try not to drive when I don't have to.
Yeah, take the train,
You
public
know what I mean? Yeah.
transportation.
Public transit's a beautiful thing in the city of Chicago, but it is, as I mentioned, an 11:35 local time start. It is 12:35 for the Eastern time zone folks like Juice over here, but it will be an 11:35 start for anybody in the Chicago, pretty much the immediate Chicagoland area. 670 Score, Marquee Sports Network in the Chicagoland market, 100.1 FM, KDKA AM 1020, and AT&T Sportsnet Pittsburgh are where you can listen and watch respectively in the Pittsburgh area. As we've mentioned throughout the show, it is lefty Justin Steele on the bump for the Cubbies, despite a 2-5 record, a 4.27 ERA, which he has brought back down over those last 3 starts. Was above 5 at one point, and he has 53 Ks on the season so far. As we mentioned, that K number a little down, but he's been effective his last few times out. And on the bump, it's old friend Jose Quintana for the Pirates, a 1-4 record, but don't be fooled, a 3.66 ERA, which is pretty good for him, and 55 Ks on the season for Jose Quintana. I'll be honest with you, a lot of the guys that have seen Quintana, it hasn't been much, and the ones that have were guys that saw him when he was back as a member of the White Sox. Yan Gomes has seen him 21 times. Jonathan VR has seen him 16 times. Other than that, nobody on the roster has seen him more than 4 times. And on the other side, nobody has seen Steele more than 5 times for the Pirates. So this is kind of a toss-up in that essence, my friend. But I want to give it to you, a little preview for tomorrow's series finale, and what you expect here from the Cubbies against the Buccos at a very early hour in the day tomorrow.
Yeah, expecting Justin Steele to follow the leader. We talked about it, right? Keegan Thompson set the standard. Meet it. Have this competition between the two of you, because you guys are both fighting for a roster spot in the rotation for next year. So show it. Show what you've learned. It's an opportunity to go out there against major league hitters. I think the cool thing is that this Buccos lineup, with all the prospects that they brought up, is a challenge now in a lot of ways. Neil Cruz is he could play, man. So yeah. Go out there and hopefully he's in the lineup and you can trust your stuff against some elite competition. And it'd be nice for the Cubs to do exactly what they did today: score early, score often, and then let Justin Steele pound the strike zone. The Pirates and the Cubs are very similar in the terms of, if you get up on them huge, they'll quit. Bad teams are like that. They're used to the feeling, and they'll just ride it out until the end of it. They'll put the position player out there, and then you roll credits. I hope that the Cubs are, on the good side of that, and they're the ones rolling the credits on the position player come tomorrow. And hopefully before said game, maybe it's a possibility in the next 12 hours. Daniel Norris is on a train somewhere not around here, back to Chicago, back to God knows where, maybe somewhere else. Yeah, I'm about done. I want to see somebody else get his spot. He's my first step, and after that, then I'll start the Jason Hayward jokes and the Jonathan VR ones after that, until I'm fully satisfied with the roster. And at that point, I will shut up and I will watch the kids grow, as some say. I think that was a White Sox tagline, or that was a Bulls tagline from a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And yeah, we'll sit here and we'll watch the kids grow.
But
yeah, no, come and get a split, be competitive. And like I said, just last night, don't embarrass yourself. Get out there and play good baseball, and make it happy for me and Ron coming on these shows and talking about some more Cubs baseball, because tonight was a good show. A lot of promise, a lot of optimism for the future. It's always good talk when it's not, I hate this, I hate that. We mixed in some things we hated, and we talked about a lot what we loved. And that's why it's always such a good show when the Cubs win. So yeah, hopefully those are the things we see tomorrow.
Yeah, when the Cubs win, you win as the listener, we win as the panelists here. It's just everybody's happy, everybody's in a good mood and cheery. And yeah, just to quickly add to your list of guys that you'll start cracking jokes about, Andrelton Simmons and his 14 WRC plus, I think certainly deserves to be there. If he's going to be on the major league roster, you know who I want to see? I want to see lifelong Cubs fan and current New York Mets prospect Cody Bohannon in his spot on the Cubs roster. That's what I want to see. Buddy of mine, shout out to him. I grew
There
up
we
with
go.
him. Yeah, he's currently in AAA with the Syracuse Mets. Having himself a pretty nice little season. Nice little run that he's been on lately, too. The bat's starting to heat up. So love, you know what? Hey, if they're going to let Andrelton Simmons have a spot on a major league roster, give my boy Cody Bohannon, call the Mets, get him over here, get him back home in front of his hometown friends and family, and let him play at Wrigley Field. I would much rather see that than watch Andrelton Simmons get trotted out there. But fuck, I'm going to start those jokes now. He's already in that position with Daniel Norris. But
worked a nice walk tonight against the the position player.
Fucking stupid. Just gouge my eyes out with that bullshit.
Yeah, that's the last time he's seen a base since Biden's been president. So
yeah, right. He went and touched it and was like, "Is this real? I can't believe this is a base."
I think he asked the umpire for directions.
Where do I go? Do I go to the dugout? No. First base. Okay, got it. But dude, I'm right there with you for tomorrow's game, right? Like I loved it because you brought it up so many times, right? Like during that run with guys like Lackey and Lester and Arrieta, like they would compete against each other. It was that internal competition to fuel each other to be better than the last guy who started. I would love to see Steele and Keegan and these guys start to do that. And I think Justin's got a great opportunity to do it tomorrow. Again, we're going to advertise it because we always do. Friend of the program, like let Justin go out there, shove tomorrow. I don't care what the K numbers are, but I'll tell you what would be cool. 7 innings. We're seeing it a lot out of him. At least 5, obviously at least 5. That's the minimum, but 5, 6, 7 out of Justin tomorrow, out of 2 runs at most, would be awesome. And that would absolutely be a perfect follow the leader to follow up Keegan Thompson's performance tonight. I'm there with you, man. It would be really, really nice for them to salvage a split after how those first 2 games went. I think that would just be such a momentum builder going into the series with the dreaded shitbirds of St. Louis this weekend. Being able to split this series again, kind of that rallying the troops. Oh, I know. Just that kind of rallying the troops momentum, right? Of like, hey, we got our ass kicked the first 2 games in Pittsburgh, but we rallied, we got the split. Let's take that momentum and let's sail it into that dog shit city down south in St. Louis and, beat up on the Redbirds a little bit. And then you got a cool little off day on Monday before they return home for 6 games against the Reds and then the Red Sox going into the 4th of July weekend. So Juice, before we get out of here, I do want to remind everybody Cubs on Tap is the official Cubs podcast of the On Tap Sports Network. You can check out all of our great work over at ontapsportsnet.com and at On Tap Sportsnet on social media. Follow the pod-specific accounts here for us at Cubs on Tap. We are at Cubbies on Tap on Twitter and Instagram. That's CUBBIES. I am at Luce on Tap on Twitter. Juice is at Juice on Tap on Twitter. Follow at Joey Knows Nothing on Twitter as well. And follow all the other great contributors here that help us with the writing side of the house. And guys that we're hoping that we get on this show at some point this season. Working schedules is such a bitch and a pain, but at Teddy Freddy 270 and at Brandon N. Kane, who also do a great job writing for us here over at Cubs on Tap. Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, you know the drill. We've got it all. And yes, Cubs fans, we all have friends that like the Southsiders. The Sox on Tap boys do a great job covering the team. I actually watched their show earlier because the Sox played early today and lost to the Blue Jays. But NWI Steve and Johnny Nani, as always, did a great job covering the boys on the South Side. So once again, ontapsportsnet.com, at ontapsportsnet on social media. Follow us everywhere. The On Tap Sports Network. Go ahead and check out what's on tap in Chicago sports. Juice, it is always a pleasure, my friend, especially after a victory. Cubs win 14-5 over the Buccos tonight. They're going for the split in the series tomorrow. Early game. And we will be back here at Cubs on Tap after that one. Before the weekend officially starts, for those that don't know, here at On Tap here at On Tap Sportsnet, Thursday is the official start of the weekend. We'll be doing some hashtag crack 'em beers, hopefully after what could be a victory tomorrow at PNC Park for the Cubbies. So, Juice, what do you say, buddy? We get out of here the only way we know how, at Cubs on Tap.
DFA Norris.
And let's go, Cubbies.